Welcome back to Skate Talk Online. Pleased to be joined again by PJ Kwong, CBC sports analyst. Today we're going to review the NHK Trophy and then dive right into the fifth event in the Grand Prix series, the Rostelecom Cup in Moscow. Let's start off with NHK. Start off with the pairs competition. This, as we discussed in our preview, was a battle between three teams, all of which had a chance to make the Grand Prix final. Zabiako and Enbert of Russia, competing 2 weeks in a row, came away with an easy win here, really surprisingly delivered in both programs. They were a little bit shaky last week, and we talked about how there really isn't time if you skate in back-to-back events to kind of correct these issues that you might have. But they looked strong here. I'm, again, more of a fan of their short program than their free skate. I think both programs kind of have that same dark feeling to them. Her look is very dark. There's no questioning their elements. They're all very strong. But I kind of get lost with their free skate. And I wish that with the talent that they have, I wish that they draw me in more than they do. What did you think?
I have to agree with you. I mean, I totally appreciate all of those elements, certainly in isolation. I think that they've got great ability, and we really see them shine. I think that she is a little bit more light than what the programs are. I would, again, like to see something that's a little bit more upbeat, because I think that they could probably carry it. And I think that that would also give us a stronger indication of connection, which I don't really see that much of. And it's one of the things I really want.
I agree. I think that their short program has some nice choreography, and the music really does kind of ask for that kind of choreography, but it's really in isolation. Like, they do this really cool move where she's running on her toe picks and he's kind of supporting her, but it's just like it's a thrown in element that really doesn't go anywhere. But if I have to pick, I would say I like their short program better. Anyways, 2 wins here. They're in the Grand Prix final.
Yes, they are.
Peng and Xin of China are finished second here. This is their second silver medal, so they're also in the Grand Prix final. 2 great skates. Still loving their short program. I think it's very unexpected for a Chinese team to skate to, a contemporary American piece. Their free skate is nice. It's growing on me, I would say. I'm not as big of a fan of it. But aside from the double salchows at the beginning, which actually looked like they might have been intentional, it was a great skate for them.
Yeah, I think so too. And you know what? They've earned it. I kind of think of them as, and this is going to sound maybe a little bit harsh, and I don't mean it to, but I kind of see them as placeholders. 10 years down the road, I'm going to remember other Chinese teams much more strongly than I will remember them, but they are still keeping the Chinese pair program in the mix.
The Kinnearums came away with a surprise bronze medal here. They didn't look lost like they did at Skate America, at least to me. I mean, their short program, you could tell they were almost terrified, and that resulted in a lot of mistakes, especially on her part in Skate America. They still have the technical issues, and surprisingly, it's her this season that is having the majority of the trouble on the side-by-side jumps, as opposed to last year where he wasn't landing anything and she was fine. The spins also, surprisingly, are looking really kind of off at this point. But they do have a medal here. They've gone to Todd Sand, who is a former world medalist, with his partner Jenny Mino. And I think the judges really want to give them top scores, because even with these mistakes, they're scoring relatively well. And we look back to a few seasons ago, they really delivered at 4 continents, and their score in the free skate would have been competitive with the top pairs in the world. So I think the judges are showing them that, hey, if you can get it together, we really believe that you're a top 5 pair in the world. Will they do it? We have to see. But I think, again, we talked about this. It's kind of a step-by-step process for them. And they come away with a medal here, which I'm sure they didn't expect.
What I like about Alexa and Chris is that connection that we're talking about, they have it in spades. So it makes them a very watchable kind of team. And what they're trying to deliver is stuff that I really think makes sense for them on an artistic level, but they also have the goods to be able to produce, as you say, with the technical score. So continued success, continued rise, and I think that going to Jenny and Todd is a great idea, because I think that that's what's going to help bring out in them that consistent, polished, prepared look, which is what they need to compete.
More Towers and Marinero had a big opportunity here. Problems in both programs, surprisingly, I would say. She made uncharacteristic mistakes in both programs. She's usually the one that is kind of the rock. Didn't look comfortable, maybe nervous, maybe knowing that, to get into the Grand Prix final, they probably needed a silver medal here. I don't know if that was in their heads or not, but with their third and fourth place finish, they will not make it. What do you think happened to them?
It's hard to say because I agree with you in that she's usually very consistent. I think that we can't undermine or underscore the idea of how far these skaters have to travel to compete and how quickly they have to get into the rhythm of the current time schedule in order to be able to maximize things. So I've been to Japan and China and Korea lots of times. And it's not easy to then get up and then have to be doing something physical. So I'm not making excuses, but that's the reality. And obviously, Alexa and Chris are also coming from North America. So the same can be said everywhere. It's hard to know. I just think that they just didn't perform. Will they, come back to perform really well at our national championships and then move on to Worlds? I absolutely believe so. So it's a shame that they don't make it to the Grand Prix final, but lessons learned, I think.
And a special mention here to Barquero and Maestro from Spain. They're another team that was competing 2 weeks in a row. Great overall event for them. They're still developing. I think they've only been together maybe 3 years now. Their free skate, though, was basically clean. They landed everything. Everything was done. And they come away with a 5th place here, which I think they'll be very happy with.
Well, and it's a real sort of confidence booster. And that's a lot of what the name of the game is, I think.
Let's move on to the ladies, and this was probably one of the greatest Grand Prix events I have ever seen.
Yeah.
Just all the way down until about 9th place. I mean, these skates were really good. Let's start off with Rika Kahira. I mentioned in our preview that I thought that she was going to win the whole thing. And
you were so smart.
After the short program, though, I was kind of like, she needs more experience. She's not ready yet. But then she comes out in the free skate, and this has to be one of the greatest skates of all time. Her technique and the way she rotates so quickly, there's no question. Her jumps aren't the biggest, I'll say that. But she rotates so quickly and so efficiently. That second triple axel might have been the best triple axel I've ever seen performed. By a lady, at least. And everything about her programs. She has a wonderful sense of style. She knows where she's at. She listens to the music. I thought her footwork sequences in both programs were beautiful. And she really understands the choreography. It's not like she's being given this choreography and she's doing it. She's pacing herself. She has rises and falls. I think she's a complete package already. And I think she's someone that Zagitova really needs to look out for.
Well, I think, it's interesting that you say that because I agree with you. She looked so settled in her skin. She didn't look junior in any way. She looked mature. And that free program was just divine. So everybody out there in the internet world, go to YouTube, Rika Kahira. You're just going to fall in love with her. And you know what? This was an event that in some ways was for a younger skater, for someone who's just sort of like still developing, getting, their senior legs kind of under them. This was a great event because you just assumed that Tuktamisheva and Miyahara would just be going at it. So she just did one of those classic sneak up the middle. So earned that first place. It's not like everybody else fell down. There were just great skates from start to finish, so it was really a treat to see. But that triple axel, you're right, is just superb. And I loved her dress. There, see, we do another little heart pat. So she was an absolute treat.
Her teammate and her training mate, Satoko Miyahara, finished right behind her. Beautiful set of programs. We don't need to go over that. I think we can establish that she, components-wise, is probably the best in the world. Everything down to her fingertips, every single program she puts out, absolutely beautiful. Her short program is probably one of the most beautiful programs I've ever seen. So her PCS is definitely deserved. I think that she's great. However, if I have to be nitpicky again this week, going back to the technical side, a technical panel that wants to be very precise, and we know this happens at times, they're going to get her for some of her jumps. Her let's toe combination, she lands it. She doesn't, It's slightly under-rotated. I don't think that it's enough that they can call it under-rotated, but if you're looking at how much she pre-rotates on the ice on both jumps, those jumps honestly should not be called for full credit. And if you compare it with someone like Tuktamisheva, who really understands the technique of a Lutz, she digs in on that toe pick and she gets straight up into the air. You just can't compare those two skaters as having the same exact element. And for now, she's not getting called on it, but I think we need to be we need to be prepared for a panel that will hammer her, because I think it's coming.
Yep, I think you're probably right. It doesn't take away, however, as you said, from the enjoyment of watching her. I mean, just beautiful.
Absolutely.
So,
As a fan of the arts, she would be someone that I could watch all day long.
yep,
If we're comparing her to the other top skaters in the world, we have to point these things out, because eventually they may catch up to her.
yep.
Tuktamisheva, on the other hand, finishes in just narrowly missed out on silver medal, but all three skaters, amazing. Triple axel again in her short program, and she landed it with a little bit of a turnout in the free skate. All her other jumps, though, clean throughout the competition. I do think that her PCS is slightly behind skaters like Miyahara. She tends to slow down and focus on the jumps, but she's landing the jumps, and she's landing difficult jumps. So credit to her for that. She's in the Grand Prix final again after 4 years. And
Wow.
she's
Yep.
really, now I think with this skate and the score that she pulled off, she's really saying, hey, I'm definitely in contention for one of those world spots
Yeah.
again.
You bet. Do you know the other thing that I want to say about her that just warms my heart? I love her interactions on social media with her fans. So I caught a tweet that she put out that was basically inviting fans to come to the hotel where she was going to be at in Japan, in Hiroshima, and to just sort of come and say hello. And I appreciate the fact that she sees that the fans are as important in the sport as they are in any other. They're not a nuisance. They're somebody. They are people who love the sport as much as she does. And so I just think that that's a wonderful gift that she brings to the sport. I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of hers.
I'm a big fan too. I think she's come into her own almost. She's
Yep.
only 21 years old still. We feel like we've seen her forever, and we have.
Well, we have
But,
since she
yeah.
was 14.
Yeah, but she's really understands who she is now, and she's going
Yeah.
for it full force, and I appreciate that. And I want to make one final note about her. Even with the kind of watered down programs, I think she probably deserves silver medal here just because of the jump issues that Satoko
I agree.
kind of gets
I
away with.
can do that. I can do that.
Yeah, but they were close, and I mean, they're both great skaters, so they're both in the final at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Fourth place was Mai Mihara, the third Japanese lady, and she, as we talked about in the preview, she was the one that everyone was kind of looking for to be the next big name in Japanese skating. But I feel like in the last season and a half, she's been the one that's kind of been pushed aside for some of the other big names. And once again here, I mean, beautiful programs. But I don't think they really make the statement to say, hey, I want to be the best in Japan.
Yeah.
And she's retaining her free skate from last season, which I think is an absolutely beautiful program. But
Yep.
it's not, in a competition like this, you had the three medalists, and then you have her right behind. And I don't think a lot of people are going to remember her skates. I think that's something
Yes.
that moving forward with all of the depth in Japanese ladies skating, she needs to do something to set herself apart. And with these programs, I don't think she's saying, here I am.
Yep, I think that you're right. And I think that we're kind of spoiled in women's figure skating at the moment with so many stars. I mean, it's not like there's like one star and then everybody else below it fighting for second, third, fourth, fifth. We have a lot of young women who can really threaten for the top spot. So I like it. I like it a lot.
Mariah Bell finished in fifth place, and this was as good of a free skate as she could have hoped for. This was the performance of her career to this point. She's hungry this year, and I think she's really making a statement not only about getting one of those two world championship spots from the United States, but she's potentially pushing to be national champion with the way she's skated in her two Grand Prix. She needs to clean up the short program. I'm not as big of a fan of it as the free skate, and she needs to land her jumps in the short to have a chance. But she's progressing, and I think she really will be in contention for the national title.
I think she will too. And you know what? I admire anybody who says, okay, I'm not where I want to be. What do I need to do? And that's the whole story around Brady Tennell. And I'm a big fan of Brady's. Same thing, sort of in the off season, all of a sudden she developed this much more mature persona. And it's a lot to have to deliver on the ice. And when she does, like she did at Autumn Classic, it's really quite wonderful to see. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't envy the judges at U.S. Nationals because I think that there's going to be a real fight to see who comes out on top. There is so much talent in the U.S. right now.
Sixth place here was In-Soo Lim
Yes.
of South Korea. Really beautiful short program. Free skate to the Chicago, which I know you love.
I do love Chicago. That's how I fell in love with Mariah Bell when she did Chicago in the gold dress. In-Soo Lim was sort of like the black dress. And by the way, Carol Lane, my colleague at CBC, says that's maybe the best dress she's ever seen in her entire life. It's going into the Carol Lane Library of Dresses. Okay, as an aside, the skating was lovely too, but truly, oh, love that program. Okay, go ahead.
For me, I like the short program better. I think that the free skate was a little bit older than her personally. I love her style. I think that the short program fit her style beautifully. Her free skate, she had a really weird fall on a triple salchow.
Yeah.
It looked, I mean, from the second she went up, she was very, very tilted. I thought maybe that was potentially a quad she was working on, or I don't know. But it just looked really funny from the start. Overall, though, a really decent set of programs. I think she can, sixth place doesn't look that good on paper, but I think she can be really proud of her skates here, especially being her first Grand Prix event. And then I have to make a special mention about Alyona Leonova of Russia. In an event that has this many great skaters, Leonova actually had the performance of the competition for me in the short program. I could not believe the improvements that she's had. She's not young. Her peak season was 2012. She was second in the world. She's basically been off the radar for the last 5 years. Just got an invite to this event at the last second, delivered a beautiful, beautiful short program, was all right in the free skate, but that short program is one of my favorite programs of the year, surprisingly.
Do you know, isn't it great when a competition delivers performances that you can just go, wow, I'm glad to have seen that, because they don't always. So when you've got sort of a standout performance, you can just kind of say, ooh, it's kind of like for me, Kahira in the free at this event. It's just sort of, I'm glad I saw that.
Let's move on to the men. Shoma Uno comes away with the win here. 2 good skates,
Yep.
much better than at Skate Canada. Really love his short program. Still not a huge fan of the technique on the quad flip, but he's getting credit for it, so good for him. The program, I don't know if you remember, but the program reminds me of Takahiko Kazuka. He skated to Jimi Hendrix in the short in 2010 for the Vancouver Olympics.
Good. Yep.
Very, very similar feeling to it, and I love that program, and I also love this program. His free skate, again, this is the style that we expect from him with Moonlight Sonata. Few smaller errors, but overall, he's pulling these big numbers, and I think that he, along with Han Yu and Chen, have kind of really distanced themselves from the rest of the field this year. What did you think about his competition?
I thought that it was a very solid competition, kind of what I expected, that consistency. I would love to, he's got some beautiful moves in that free program. I still, for me, would love to see, okay, let me put it this way. The connection between the choreography, his soul, and the music seems to be stronger in the short than in the free. Who doesn't love Moonlight Sonata? Beautiful piece of music and some beautiful moves within the program. But I'm not convinced that he would be listening to that rendition when he's walking up and down the grocery aisles, which to me is the testament of a good piece of music. The short program, yes. So I don't know what the solution is to that, but it's just merely an observation. And I'm basically splitting hairs because all things, on balance, this is an enormously talented skater and one that we love to watch. So, but for me, I love how he connects to that short program music. I don't see a stronger connection in the free, but each to his own.
I think another thing that I've seen, and I know other people have also commented on this, he is a top-level skater. He was close to winning the Olympic gold medal. He was close to winning the World Championships. I think that his programs are not as complex as Han Yu or Chen. I think a lot of the time he's either really focusing on preparing for the jumps, or he does. Granted, he has plenty of transitions; they're beautiful, but I think at the level he's at, he could really push it a little bit more, and I would like to see that going further in his career. He's still young, but I think that he has more in him, and I think he has more capability than maybe what he's presenting. But as we said, the connection to the music is absolutely that's not something that you can teach. I just think he can push it a little bit more. If I were to critique one thing about him.
Yep.
Sergei Voronov, silver medal here. No nonsense about his programs. It's very methodical. Not a fan of the short again. Doug Mattis and I talked in our Skate America review about how he had a different piece of music for the short. He changed it. Did not change any of the choreography, including all of the arm movements, all of the turns. Music is very different between what it was earlier in the season. So I think that tells me, I think that he's giving choreography and then he tries to find music that maybe relates to it. And with that, I don't think his PCS should be anywhere near the level of the top skaters. And, he's pulling off eights. I don't know if I agree with that. I'd probably have him a little bit lower just based on
I agree.
The overall interpretation and the performance. I don't know that it's exciting. Even though he's landing the jumps, he lands that quad toe like it's nobody's business, and he earns a lot of points on the big jumps. There's no denying, though, that he was second best in this competition. He's very likely in the Grand Prix final with his placement, so that's great for him. I just wish, like Leonova, for example, his teammate, that as you go further into your career, you maybe experiment with trying new things or really maybe attempting to listen to the music a little bit more. And I just don't see that with him.
So what I want when I'm watching a skater, I want to see that they're not skating because they don't know what else they can do. They're skating because they want to skate. So, and that's not my feeling with him. Again, I have an appreciation for the technical elements that he's able to pull off, but it's as if the choreography doesn't matter. And the choreography for me is everything. That is the foundation for where the jumps are placed and the elements that you do. I want the skating to leave me feeling something. And I don't want my mind to be wandering. So the very best skaters, I can still think about the short program for Nathan Chen this year and see that sort of like collegiate hair and the smile on his face and the feeling that it left me with, which is just one of wanting more. And I felt invested artistically in the program. So with Voronov, if you're just sort of like throwing the arm movements, that doesn't do it for me anymore in this day and age. You want to go back to sort of 1967, sure. But we're not in 1967. We are looking for a very sophisticated artistic framework for these very difficult technical elements. So, and the fact that he was second in this field, he earned second for sure, but that tells me that it was not maybe the strongest field. Let's put it that way.
Matteo Rizzo of Italy.
Yep.
Bronze medal here, fourth place, and now a bronze medal in the Grand Prix this year. Struggled in both programs, uncharacteristically in the short. He's usually a pretty good short program skater. I really enjoy that program. I don't know what it is about it. I think he's a straightforward skater. His technique is spot on when he lands the jumps. Free skate is much in the style of last year. I'm not as invested in it as I am the short, but there's a lot of positive about his skating, and I think he's well on his way. He's someone that last year really wasn't even in the talks for an Olympic spot, ended up beating out one of his teammates for that Olympic and world spot, and now he's already a Grand Prix medalist in the next season. We have to give him credit for that.
You bet.
I just wish that the free skate was as engaging for me as the short program.
I agree. And I think that when you think about how much work he did last season between, junior worlds, senior worlds, Olympic Games, and European championships as well, that's a whole lot of competing. And there's not a lot of downtime before getting ready for this season. So I think that once he gets through this season, and there's, again, a little tiny bit more downtime between this and next, and at 20 years old, he's still learning a whole lot about kind of the world and competing and art and movement and expression. So I'm looking for. I'm gonna be a spectator for the long game where he's concerned. I can see the potential for sure, and congratulations to him for getting that medal.
Vincent Zhou of the United States. I know you're a big fan. He once again just narrowly missed out on bronze medal. He was in a three-way race for bronze medal at Skate America, lost out. Here, just barely lost out on the bronze medal to Rizzo. Doug Mattis and I discussed in the Skate America review that he's a skater that's under the microscope with every single jump that he does.
Yes.
I have to say here, though, I don't think that the calls were wrong. In the short program, he did a quad Lutz triple toe, and the Lutz was called under rotated. The toe wasn't called anything, but if you look at the review, I mean, the toe loop wasn't even close to being rotated. So I think he got away, actually, with a few things this week. But my question about him is, what is it about his technique, do you think it is, that leads him into all of these under rotations constantly? Or is it maybe nerves that he doesn't maybe have in practice that are making him that little bit short that are getting these calls?
Well, you can never underestimate what adrenaline will do to the body. So, there's that. Is he breathing enough to be able to get, all of the oxygen that he needs? I don't really know. I also know that there's something to be said for people's habits. If you start to learn how to do even a single jump in a certain way and how you feel in the air, and then you go to the double, triple, and quad, those habits are very hard to break. When you were talking about the pre-rotation earlier of Satoko Miyahara, that's a very difficult habit to break. She would have to go back to skating, super clean single jumps and double jumps. But if you've learned how to start your rotation, on the ice, if that's how you get the clean rotation on the way out, then it's a difficult habit to break. So I don't really know what the solution is. I just know that I appreciate, that the love affair that Vincent seems to have developed with his music and the movement. So I think that if we give him a little bit more time, because he's very young as well, we give him a bit more time, I think that the technique will continue to improve. What I'm pleased to see is this marriage of music and movement, and then we'll just give him a bit more time.
One thing I did notice about his technique with the edge jumps, Salchow and Axel specifically, he tries quad Salchow on the free skate. There's a split second going into it on that edge where he kind of turns and doesn't get up and tight into the rotation. And it got called under rotated. His triple axel oftentimes gets called under rotated. And it's the same thing with the axel. It takes him that split second to get tight up into the air, like he's not so sure. And I have a feeling, at least with the edge jumps, I haven't figured out what the toe jump problem is, but I think that's what kind of leads itself into being a little bit short and then almost getting no credit for these jumps.
Do you know what? You may very well be right. As I said, though, I think that technique can be improved upon. I think that solid sort of artistic foundation, that for me is going to separate the men from the boys at some point. All things being equal, who's got the better program if everybody is skating the same kind of jumps and the same kind of quality? So it could be that this is all part of the master plan to get this one thing figured out before the rest of it, and then the rest of it will just simply come.
Dmitry Aliev, also of Russia. This is the exact opposite, for me at least, the exact opposite of what Sergei Voronov is. He is, these programs are absolutely beautiful. I mean, this skater is amazing. I'm a huge, huge fan.
Me too.
He understands his music. He's graceful. Even with the 2 disaster skates that he had, his programs were beautiful. There's something that I can watch again and again and be like, wow, I see all of the good in this. Set aside the mistakes. If he can really just put it together, and I know that this has been a problem throughout his career, he's really hit or miss. I think he could be at the top of the world. I really do. He's that good. But, you know, if the consistency isn't going to be there, there's going to be results like we saw this week. But I had to make a mention of him because his programs, if you haven't seen them, go watch them. They're beautiful.
Absolutely. Again, I'm anxious to see, you know, on a good day, beautiful. So let's just hope for good days.
One other thing to point out, the Japanese men, we've seen most of the top men this year. No one is really, aside from Uno and Hanyu, obviously, pushing for that third spot. But then you have Daisuke Takahashi, who's competing at his regionals and his sectionals, basically to qualify for the national championships, putting up really good scores. There's no doubt that he is an artist. He deserves every ounce of the PCS that he gets.
Yeah.
You think he has a chance at that third spot, seeing how everybody else has been so far this year?
I really do, because I think that as far as reputation is concerned, you know, he's a legend. It's kind of, you know, when like Patrick Chan came back, even though his results weren't what they had been, people will still love to see, you know, icons and legends, and Daisuke Takahashi is certainly that. In the absence of any real competition, absolutely, I think he can grab that third spot. And wouldn't that be so exciting for the Japanese fans with Worlds being in Japan this year? I think that the fans would go just completely bonkers, not just Japanese fans, but everybody. So I'm hopeful that he has a good trip towards nationals and a great national championships, because it would be wonderful to see him compete at the World Championships.
One thing we do have to point out with him, if he is to compete at the World Championships, he's going to have to compete somewhere internationally before all of this, because he doesn't have the minimum technical totals that he needs to get into 4 continents or Worlds. So if I were the Japanese Federation, I would be looking to putting into an event either later this month or early December, because come January, nationals time, there's really not a lot of time left. And I think he is setting himself up for a potential bronze medal and a trip back to the World Championships.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, you're right. I forgot about that. I just assumed, because I wasn't thinking, that the 4 continents could be that. No, it cannot. You're absolutely right. Look at you thinking so smartly.
Listen to me, Japanese Federation, because I would love to see him again at the big events.
Me too.
All right, finally, let's move on to the dance competition. This was a watered-down field. Papadaki, since he's their own, withdrew right before the event. This left the door open for many teams to not only get on the podium, but potentially get to the Grand Prix final. The winners here...
Bit of a surprise, which was great.
Yeah, the winners here, Hawaii and Baker of the United States. We have not seen them at all this season, so anyone that told you they knew that they were going to win, they're crazy, because we don't know what kind of shape they were in. I think that they delivered. They delivered their elements well. Their free dance, they unfortunately, at least for me, are using the same music as Kevin Amos. And I've already said I think Amos's program is a masterpiece. I really, really just love it. I don't think that, you know, it's not fair to compare them to a male skater, but I don't think that they have the kind of attention to detail, and I don't think they really use the music as they could. Whether this is because they were injured throughout, I think they only were back on the ice a month ago.
Wow.
Maybe this program will build. We don't know. But I have to say that looking at how everybody else skated, they definitely deserved the win here. Now they probably only need a 4th place finish in France to make the Grand Prix final. So that's a great accomplishment. You know, they come in, they don't know where they're going to be because they haven't had any experience so far this season, and they come away with the win.
Yeah, I think good for them. And you know what? I like this team a lot. I mean, I've been watching them since they won the Junior World title. So I think that this is a team with lots of promise and, you know, great technical ability. So I was delighted to see the result. I had assumed that it would go to Zagorsky and Guerrero of Russia, and look what happened.
Zagorsky and Guerrero came into the competition with the door open to qualify for the final. They won a bronze medal at Skate America. Rhythm dance was performed really well. They score very well on that Tango Romanica pattern. They are great skaters, no doubt. I don't know what happened between the rhythm dance and the free dance, but there were nerves there for sure in the free dance. And we have to remember with them as well, they were off the ice the majority of the summer. They came to Skate America saying that they were not training fully. They had not been completely prepared. We saw a lot of little mistakes in their free dance. I thought it was still an effective program. I saw the potential there. This time around, unfortunately, he was just off from the beginning. He had a big twizzle mistake, which that alone cost them the gold medal. There was a curve lift into the stationary lift. The entire time he looked off balance. It looked awkward. All these little things just added up in terms of the grade of execution. And they ended up dropping down to 4th place in the free dance, but won the silver medal overall. I don't know if the pressure was on them because of, potentially winning their first Grand Prix event, or maybe the thought of being in the Grand Prix final with this win. But they just didn't do it for me in this competition. They're still on the bubble, though, to qualifying to the Grand Prix final.
Well, and I got to tell you, the field to look out for is the field in France. There's a lot of good skaters going to France. So it will come down to that last event to figure out exactly who's going to be in ice dance at the final. The
Parsons, another team from the United States, have been together their entire lives, brother, sister.
That's how that works.
They win the bronze medal. I think they have a problem with finding an identity for themselves. The last few seasons, they've resorted to free dances with music that have been made popular by other ice dance teams, whether it was almost 30 years ago or whether it was really recently. This season, they're using a piece that Papadakis and Cizeron used to win their World Championship title in 2016, and this is, for many people, a masterpiece program. I don't think that, in terms of U.S. ice dance especially, you have a lot of teams that are really good. I think that they need to, much like Mai Mihara that we talked about in the ladies, they need to find a way to distinguish themselves and stand out. And with the programs and the way they present them, I don't think that they're doing it, unfortunately. But they did win a bronze medal.
Well, it's kind of like Shibatanis, Maya and Alex. They've always been tidy. They were always strong. They were always this. And then they did Coldplay. And for me, that was the program that really turned the corner. I know that they'd already been world bronze medalists, sort of like a 2011, I think it was. Yep. But for me, Coldplay was what really made people realize that, I don't have a problem with brother and sister teams at all, because I see it as a male skater and a female skater. A lot of people are squeamish about it for some reason, which I just don't really understand. But you have to be able to find that piece that makes sense, that's not romantic, because that just doesn't play well, but find something where it's a strong woman, strong man. So I think that there is that possibility to find it, and chasing somebody else's vision is not the way to do it. You're absolutely right. So, and I always look back to that Coldplay program.
And it's absolutely true. You bring up a great point. Shibatanis were always known as technicians. They always had their feet perfectly placed. And then they came up with that Coldplay program, and all of a sudden everybody became a huge fan of them. So it's not to say that the Parsons can't do that, but I think that they need to go that route, and they really need to find something that they say, this is us. Because, it's U.S. Ice Dance, and you need to break out somehow.
Yep. This is us. Isn't that a famous TV show?
Yes,
that's my favorite.
Yes, it is. Fearing Gibson of Great Britain, I actually interviewed them right before this event.
I like those two.
Because I watched them at Skate America, and I said, wow, they're both stars. They finished 5th place, but they were stars there, so I said, I have to interview them. Go into this event, she missed the twizzle. They lost a lot of points there. They find themselves in 7th place. Free dance, everything nailed. About as good of a skate as they're going to have. Just narrowly missed winning the free dance, which is unheard of in ice dance, to go from 7th place even to 2nd place in the free dance. Their program is a disco program. It really lends itself, to me at least, of saying these are fun elements. The choreographic elements that are added this year, there's 3 of them. All of them are really amazing. They take full advantage of that. They earn big points on those. And their free dance score, if they can get it together and deliver 2 strong programs, they're definitely in contention for top 10 in the world. They're throwing themselves in as making a really big move this year. And I think if you ask anyone who watched the entire free dance, they're going to say, well, the standout program by far was Fearing Gibson.
And they're fun to watch. Entertain me. Seriously, I am sick to death of I want something that's going to be uplifting. That's why for me, Gilles and Poirier's free dance, it's the standout of the whole field. Of everything that I've seen so far, that's the one that just makes me think, wow, that's going to go into the permanent hard drive of performances. And I think Fear and Gibson are also wildly entertaining, and that's what I really want when I'm watching hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of skating. Entertain me.
Well, overall, I think this was a great event. The ladies again will go down in history as probably one of the best Grand Prix events we've ever seen.